Mr. President, it may have taken a while, but it looks like the White House may finally be coming to the debt ceiling negotiating table in a more serious way. The President's now appointed members of his staff to negotiate directly with Speaker McCarthy's team, a logical and overdue step since passage of debt ceiling legislation depends on an agreement between the President and the Republican-controlled House of Representatives. I was also encouraged by the White House's statement after Tuesday's debt ceiling meeting, which noted that the President is, quote, optimistic that there is a path to a responsible bipartisan budget agreement if both sides negotiate in good faith and recognize that neither side will get everything that it wants. And recognize that neither side will get everything that it wants. That part is very important, Mr. President, because previously Democrats and the President's position was that Democrats should get everything they want and that Republicans should get nothing, an extremely unrealistic position and one that suggested that Democrats did not understand the nature of divided government. So I'm grateful that the President seems to be taking a more realistic view of what is necessary for an agreement. It's unfortunate that it's taken the White House this long. Speaker McCarthy's been ready to negotiate for months, and the President should have engaged seriously months ago. But, Mr. President, better late than never. And I hope over the next few days the two sides will be able to swiftly reach an agreement. A good place to start would be with a good long look at the policies in the House Republicans' Limit, Save, Grow Act, which pairs a debt ceiling increase with common sense spending reforms. Things like reclaiming unspent COVID money, modestly strengthening work requirements in federal entitlement programs for able-bodied Americans. A move, I might add, supported by more than 60% of the American public in order to help individuals move from welfare to work. Capping discretionary spending for next year at the fiscal year 2022 discretionary spending level, the same level we were successfully operating at mere months ago. Repealing the green energy subsidies in the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, whose estimated cost has ballooned since the bill was passed. Passing permitting reform, a bipartisan priority to help get both conventional and green energy projects off the ground more quickly, which could help grow our economy. Repealing the President's reckless student loan giveaway, which could otherwise end up costing American taxpayers close to $1 trillion, and other common sense measures. Mr. President, the provisions of the Limit, Save, Grow Act have been the subject of a lot of fear-mongering from Democrats who have been set against including any spending reforms as part of a debt ceiling package. But these are responsible ideas worthy of consideration as part of a debt ceiling agreement, or for that matter, in any other context. Our nation has a massive national debt, $31 trillion and counting, and a serious spending problem. And the Limit, Save, Grow Act is a reasonable and responsible attempt to get our nation back on a more fiscally sustainable path, saving on the order of $4.5 trillion over the next 10 years. And while, as the President pointed out, neither side will get everything it wants in negotiations, I hope that ideas from the Limit, Save, Grow Act will make it into a final debt ceiling agreement. Despite the President's attempts to claim the mantle of fiscal responsibility, the truth is that spending under the Biden administration has reached staggering levels compared to pre-pandemic federal budgets. And if we don't get spending under control, we're going to be facing some pretty serious economic consequences. So as I said, I'm pleased that the President seems to be taking negotiations a little more seriously. I hope he will not allow himself to be distracted by extreme members of his own party, like the individuals who are suggesting that the President attempt to raise the debt ceiling on his own, using a dubious interpretation of the 14th Amendment, if Democrats don't like the debt ceiling agreement. Debt ceiling increases have a long history, I should say, of being paired with deficit reduction measures or other budgetary policy changes. In fact, Mr. President, 7 of the last 10 debt ceiling increases have been accompanied by budgetary reforms and policy changes. And it's time for all members of the Democrat Party to recognize what the President appears now to be recognizing, and that is that in divided government, both parties have to compromise to reach an agreement. So credit to the President for acknowledging this fact. And I hope, Mr. President, that over the next few days we will see a deal emerge that not only raises the debt ceiling, but also puts us on a more sustainable fiscal path moving forward. Mr. President, I yield the floor.